Welcome all the speakers and our participants for joining this program. Like every year, we are joining this, organizing this. This budget has been presented in the parliament in a very unprecedented situation. We all know that the economy has been badly hit by pandemic and related measures. So there is a huge demand constant recession or whatever term you can use. And there is also a kind of consensus that government needs to boost up demand. So we need some sort of expansionary fiscal policy. And indeed, people claim that yes, it has been the case. There has been several packages in the past, and in over the last 1 year, there has been about 14% more than what it was budgeted. And again, we are having an expansion of similar nature. But is it good enough? Is the expansion enough for boosting the demand and get the economy back on track? More importantly, whether while we see a substantial expansion in terms of fiscal deficit, so is that a measure of expansion? Because if fiscal deficit is coming at the cost of, you can say, taxation reduction, huge tax concession has been given. So is that a good idea? Has that helped? And more importantly, if we are doing deficit financing and if we're spending money on certain heads, where exactly we should have spent and where we are spending, are they good enough to boost the demand inside the country, or the way we are going to spend will actually increase more of imports and more of consumption of luxury goods? These are important issues. Now, this also brings us back to what has been the flavor of the day, Atmanirbhar Bharat and industrial policy. So what has been the sources of lack of competitiveness of Indian industry? That is an important aspect to look at, whether budget has done anything on that. Now, people talked about wage rate, but many people say wage rate is not a big thing. But education, people are not skilled enough. Cost of energy, lack of adequate infrastructure. So these are issues that need to be addressed. And of course, infrastructure got attention. We see huge projects being declared. But new dedicated freight corridors have been declared. But then one can also think that some 15 years back, we announced dedicated freight corridors, two of them, Eastern and Western. 15 years down the line, we have completed just about half of that. So if we could not complete those dedicated freight corridors, announcing more, what is the guarantee that what we're trying to do will be achieved? Then, of course, health is an important issue, which has been linked to the pandemic, but also because health is important for making your labor able, efficient. Now, expectedly, the budget has mentioned health a lot many times, and finance ministers especially mentioned points about strengthening primary health center and all. But do we see, concomitant allocation in the budget, or is it that, we are spending more on rural drinking, but not on health infrastructure, or we will be spending a lot of money on vaccination, but not strengthening this sector at all? So these are also important issues. We have speakers for that. Informal sector is one that, of course, need good attention because pandemic and lockdown has affected hard that sector most. So have we done enough in the budget for that? And then, of course, agriculture is also a topic of the season. We all know that farmers are sitting in the borders. So, of course, everybody expected that agriculture would get serious attention in this budget. But has that been done? So that is also important issue that need to be discussed. Then one important aspect that has been highlighted is that FDI, privatization, of public assets, which was there in the last year budget also, but the target could not be achieved. Whether that itself is a good or bad idea is a different story. But if we could not do it last year, what is the guarantee that we will do this year? So are we in a situation where we might get more of deficit? And of course, importantly, that we talk about Atmanirbhar India, and we are depending so much on foreign investment. So is there some sort of mismatch? The idea is that does it gel with the concept of Atmanirbhar Bharat? These are important issues to be discussed. But lastly, I would also like to mention one point that FM talked about this budget will be historical, but PM talked about, we had many budgets, and this budget will be a kind of a sequel to that. So what exactly did we see? Did we see a historical budget, or did we see something incremental? In any case, now people say that budget has become annual ritual. Not much comes out of it because not many decisions are taken throughout the year without, budget, as executive decision. So do we see this budget as really historical, or it's a series of actions, one of that? After GST has come, we know that budget doesn't take any decision on GST, it's done in GST Council. So of course that is an important. So to discuss all these issues, we have a panel of very eminent experts. We have Professor Biswajit Dhar from JNU. We have Professor Praveen also from JNU. We have Professor Rama who is eminent health experts, as is also from JNU. We have education expert Professor Govinda, who has been with NUEPA earlier, but now he's with CSD as distinguished professor. We have Professor T. Haque, who is a noted agriculture expert and who has been a researcher as well as who played an important role in policy making for more than 2 decades. And we also have Dr. Ashwani Mahajan, who is the convener of Swadeshi Jagaran Manch, who has been very active, the organization, as well as he as an expert has been active in these economic issues, in particular Atmanirbhar Bharat, FDI and those kinds of issues. So we have a huge lined up of experts, but not last but the least, we have a chair who is president of CSD, Professor Muchkund Dubey, but he has been a distinguished diplomat, an international bureaucrat, as well as an eminent education expert in his own right. So with these words and welcoming you all again, I would request Professor Dubey to take over the session.